Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Valen Hark's Learn Japanese Extravaganza. I'm your host, Valen Hark. I'm going to be bringing you those smooth jazz tunes all throughout the evening as we start our journey learning Japanese. Now, if this is your first time in the stream, my name is Valen Hark and I'm a time traveler. I live in the year 2162. That understand the technology, that can rebuild it, that can reverse engineer it. Anyway, thank you for joining us. What are we going to get into today? The basics. If you don't know anything about Japanese, you've come to the right place. We're going to start slow and easy. We're going to ease you in. Don't worry about it. We're going to take it slow. I know that it is a daunting task for some of you who think that Japanese is so hard and it's impossible. I can't possibly do it. Let me tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, you can do it. And I want to start the stream off by blowing your mind by telling you that Japanese pronunciation, far easier than English. If you speak English, you already got a leg up. And here's why. Because in English, if we spell any word with, let's say, the letter A, if you didn't know English, if you weren't raised as a native, you'd have no idea which version of the pronunciation for that A to use in any given word. For example, let's say the word airplane. Would you know how to, that A is eh? Or would you say airplane? Or plane. Sometimes we say all right. All our plane? You see what I mean? So here's the key to Japanese pronunciation, ladies and gentlemen. There are only 5 vowels. And they are A, I, U, E, and O. And with that said, Kurtophocles has joined us in the chat. He's always trying to get me banned. Kurt, you behave yourself tonight. This is going out as an educational stream. No mature content tonight, please. Thank you. Welcome, Kurt. So those vowels, A, I, U, E, and O, they will never be pronounced any differently. Get this into your head immediately, please. It's the most important thing that I can convey to you tonight. And if you can say A, I, U, E, O, you can pronounce literally every Japanese word. And I promise you that. And we're going to look at some examples later tonight. The other thing that's very important before we jump in is to know that there are 3 scripts in Japanese. And those 3 scripts are known as Hiragana, Katakana, and Kanji. And let's you know what? Let's jump on over. Let's take a look. Get that smooth snow out of the background and make it nice and crisp. Here we have Hiragana and Katakana. Now, you notice I said there are 3 scripts. Hold on, we've got a question here. Do they ever switch back and forth in sentences and words between the 3? As a matter of fact, they do. And that is a very important point and a good question. And I'm going to jump into that very shortly. But yes, the important thing is that all 3 scripts are used at all times. And I'm going to tell you how and when each script's going to be used. And before we even move on, I know that some people look at this immediately and just throw their hands up and give up. Relax. Ladies and gentlemen, relax. We have all the time in the world. Trust me, time is the resource that I have the most of. And I'm going to give it to you. We're going to take it slow. You're going to get through everything, I promise you. If you continue with the series, you will be able to speak, read, and write Japanese, at least on a basic level. So, Hiragana and Katakana. These are the 2 phonetic scripts. And by that, I mean they are the same as the alphabet. This is basically just the Japanese alphabet, which you're looking at right here. And I want to make a quick point here. If we, hello, there we go. If we just drew a line between these 2 things, these 2 are the same sets of pronunciations, just written differently. Okay? So, if you look actually at each one, and I'll tell you how to read these charts here, you start at the top right and work your way down through the columns. So this would be the first column, this would be the second column, and so on. So you would read these as, hey, remember before when I said a, I, u, e, o? There you go, the 5 basic vowels right here. And to the left, ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, sa, shi, su, se, so, and so on. So, what's going on here? Let's take a look. This is the same chart. I've just written it here with alphabet characters so it's easier to see. We've got the vowels, and then we've got a select few consonants. It's not as hard as you thought, is it? And the reason is, basically, all you do to pronounce everything in Japanese is either just use these first 5 vowels by themselves, or attach them to these consonants here. A, I, U, E, O, ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, sa, shi, su, se, so, ta, chi, tsu, te, to, na, ni, nu, ne, no, ha, hi, hu, he, ho, ma, mi, mu, me, mo, ya, yu, yo, ra, ri, ru, re, ro, wa, o, and the only one that is just a consonant by itself, the letter N. Why is it like that? Look, I don't know. Just accept it for now, because we're going to move on shortly here. So that's how this is structured. That's how you read it. And if you look right here to the right, katakana is the same exact thing. Mami Mumemo, Kurt loves it. Yes, the pronunciations are fun at first. I give you that. But if you look over here at katakana, we've got a, I, u, e, o, ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, sa, shi, su, se, so, and so on. So what's going on here? Why do we have 2 of the same exact scripts? Why do we need 2 of them? Why? What is the answer to that? Well, I'm going to tell you. Well, I'm going to give you the short version, because the long version is, historically, they actually just used katakana. Way back when. And before then, they used a script called manyogana, but we're not going to get into that. You don't need to know about that. Over time, they tried to make the script easier to read and write, and ended up basically with hiragana. And these days, we use both. And the reason is, well, Kurt, what do you want to know here? Do they use katakana on official government writings? Yes. All 3 scripts, the third one we have not introduced yet, which is kanji, but all 3 scripts are used at all times, for all senses. I will say that katakana is sometimes not used, and here's the reason. So this is what I'm trying to explain here. Hiragana these days is mostly used for just regular vocabulary words and grammar particles. Katakana, on the other hand, is mostly used for foreign loanwords and foreigners' names. So my name, Valen Hark, would be written in katakana. And it would be Beireng Hak. Because remember, they do not have as many pronunciations in Japanese as we do in English. So they have to make do with just these. And pronounce everything with just these. So that's why sometimes you get those funny sounding words, or your name sounds funny in Japanese. It's because they only have this set of pronunciations, and they cannot use anything else, unless they're speaking another language, obviously. But the average Japanese person who's just speaking in Japanese is only going to use these pronunciations for everything, including Western English words, other words from other languages, loanwords, etc. So when I say loanwords are written in katakana, I mean words like computer. What's that one mean, ladies and gentlemen? That means computer. Yeah, you got it right. There are too many to count loanwords stolen directly from English into Japanese, and you got to be careful with them because a lot of them don't actually mean what they mean in English. Some funny examples of that: baby car. Can you imagine what baby car means? It would be written with katakana here. No, it is not a car driven by a baby. As much as I would love it to be, that is not the case. It's the word for stroller, or pram, depending on your dialect of English. So there are a bunch of loan words, bastardized words like that, taken from English and mashed up together in Japanese that we wouldn't even understand. And then there's a bunch of words like computer or hamburger that mean what they sound like. And those are written in katakana. Now, the third script, which we do not have a chart for, is kanji. And the reason we don't have a chart for that is there are tens of thousands of kanji. And you probably know those as the, for example, this character here, as the characters taken originally from Chinese. Now, this one here we're going to learn today, towards the end, is watashi. And this kanji means I or me. And if sometimes it's attached to other kanji, it could mean something else, but we're not going to get into that today. But basically, there are tens of thousands of these individual characters, and these are not phonetic. These are logographic. And that's a fancy word for basically just meaning it's a symbol. I mean, I guess so is the alphabet, but when we look at alphabet characters, we associate them with pronunciations. Kanji, being logographic, are not associated with pronunciations. It's more like, if you know hieroglyphics, it's kind of like that. It's not the same thing, but it's basically a picture of a word. And that's confusing, so try not to think too much of it beyond that. But basically what's going on here is each kanji can actually be read differently depending on the context. Now, in this case, you'll notice here, this single kanji has 3 hiragana for its pronunciation. Watashi. And if we go and look over at the chart here, we can find them. Where's ta? There it is. Ta and shi. Watashi. I or me. And so why do they use these kanji? Why do they use thousands of these characters? Here's the thing. It's actually kind of counterintuitive, because you would never imagine this to be the case, but I can guarantee you, once you're fluent in Japanese, you will think so too. It is easier to read sentences with the information condensed down into single logographic characters instead of having to read 3 different phonetic characters. Because here's the thing, once you have this character memorized, once you're really used to it, reading it, when you see this in a sentence, it's just one character and you immediately know watashi. And you do not have to read them separately as hiragana. So that's a big reason why kanji is used. And here's the thing with kanji, we are not going to start out with those. We're going to start out with hiragana, and then we're going to move to katakana, and then we will slowly creep on in to kanji. And I'll tell you why. Kanji is something that you learn over a fairly long period of time. Native speakers of Japanese, people who've grown up in Japan, do not just have that all implanted into them like we do with the alphabet in elementary school. They do have hiragana and katakana pretty down pat as early as elementary school, though. They absolutely do. But they will study kanji into high school and beyond. And to be honest, even native speakers do not know every single kanji. There are some people who are really good at it, that probably could boast that they know them all or something like that. But in everyday life, in casual, everyday speaking, even though there are tens of thousands of them, there's only a couple thousand that are actually used often. And of those, there's probably even less that are like really everyday use. So when I say tens of thousands, it's not even that much. Basically, you just have to memorize them. You just have to write them down. I'm going to show you a way to memorize these, starting with hiragana and katakana, and I'm going to show you a way that's not going to suck. Because here's the thing that turns most people off of learning Japanese, and they look at this and then they go to a classroom and or they look online on YouTube or something, and the first thing that the people tell them to do is to sit down there and to take the first character, let's turn this off, and just write it 100 times. This is it's that first character on the chart, right? Okay, today, class, we're gonna write 100 times. Oh boy. And there you go, sitting there for the next hour, writing that over and over again. Now, this works, and you will memorize that character. Oh, I guarantee it. But you are going to hate life every minute of it. It's boring, it's drab, it takes forever, it's too dry. I don't like it. It's not for my attention span, and probably not for yours, or the majority of people. So here is the technique that I want to show you. We will start with that first character, this first one right here, which looks like this. We will start with this in our notebook. Just grab a notebook, doesn't matter. Notebook, pencil. Forget the eraser, just don't, if you make mistakes, who cares? All you're gonna do is write garbage all over this notebook. It's not to show anybody. It's not to be cleanly and neat. It's not to present. It's not to get graded on. All it is going to be your memorization notebook. So on the first page, the first thing you do is you just start with this first character. Right here. This is the first thing you need to do. These 5 vowels, a, I, u, e, o, starting with a. But here's the thing. Here's the key. Instead of writing this 100 times and boring yourself to death, move on. We did a, move on to the next character, e, right here. So we did a, we're gonna move on to e. So in our notebook, right next to a, just do it, e. Okay, now what do? Now we review. I know we have a whopping 2 characters here, ladies and gentlemen, but it's review time already. Go back. If you need to look at it again, whatever, we just started, that's fine. Just write it again. Then go on and review the character we just did, E. Right, we did E just then. And then what? You might see the pattern going on here. Go to the next character. Ooh. And I'm running out of space here, that's why I did it below it. You don't have to do it, obviously, in this grid-like pattern I'm doing here. This is the next character, right here. We did a, I, u. And now what do? Review them. Go back. This character again. A, I. And then the character you just did. U. Do you see what we're doing here? We're getting a new character, and this was the first character. We didn't have anything before it to review, so we just moved on to the second character, E. And we wrote it down, and then we reviewed a, I. We went to the next character, new character, U. Then we reviewed a, I, U. So, do you see the pattern going on here, ladies and gentlemen? Let me erase this real quick. The pattern is new character, and if this is your first character, you have nothing before it, so new character again. Right? New. First character, so we have a new character here, new. And then review. Old. New character. And then review. Right? Old. And then what would you do? I think you got it by now, but we would move on to the next character, E. Which looks like this. E. New. And then what would you do? Let me get rid of all this so we can see this here. Ooh, don't get rid of those, thank you. Yes, I am using Illustrator. So you just did this new one, right? This was your new character. What do? Review them. A, I, U, E. Old. Then you move on again to the last character for the day. A, I, U, E, O. And you would write this down, and that would be your new character. And then what would I do? I'd review them again. So we would go, continue on in your notebook. You can write it all just in a straight line. Just forget about formatting. We want to make this as seamless and smooth as possible so you don't get frustrated and annoyed and don't want to dread studying every day. So just forget about whether the note's clean or not. In your notebook, just continue on. Review them again. All of them. A, I, U, E, O. And there you go. These are now all old characters, right? We've already done them. And here's the thing. You can stop for the day at that point, if you want to. My recommendation would be, now that you have your full set for the day, you've got A, I, U, E, O, the 5 vowels for the day. Maybe do this review again 2, 3, 4, 5 times. What's it going to take? 5 minutes, 10 minutes in your notebook. Try not to look back at the chart. See if you can remember it now that you've written them so many times. Oops. I, U, E, and O. And just repeat that a few times, however much you're comfortable with. And now here's the thing. This whole studying the characters, the memorization thing that took place today, you did all of the characters in the same time that you would have done one of them if you were just writing that one 100 times over. And so people will ask, yeah, but I'm not really memorizing all of them as hard as or as good as I would have memorized that one character, right? I guess technically not, but I don't think you need to memorize them so perfectly. Because here's the thing. Tomorrow, just leave this alone for now. You don't want to fry your brain. Leave this alone. Come back tomorrow and do this again from the start. Let's say you remembered but you forgot. Let's say you forgot what is let me turn this off. What is E? So you go and look at the chart. That's it. And you remember U, because it's pretty easy, right? But let's say you forgot E. You show yourself on the chart again. Do it again. And then you remember O, for example, right? And so you think to yourself, okay, I forgot like 2 of them, but I remembered the other ones pretty well. So just do the same thing you did yesterday and repeat this review maybe 2 or 3 more times in your notebook, and that's it. And then leave it alone. Leave it alone. Go about your day. Forget about it. Come back day 3 and do it again. And on day 3, you might remember better than you did before, or you might not. And if you didn't, do this same exercise again until you did. This is going to make the studying easier on you. Because in just if you're really taking it that slow and you're just doing 5 a day like this, and let's say tomorrow you move on to this row here, after reviewing the first row, what's it going to take you? A couple weeks to memorize all of this and be able to write and read them and recall them from memory? Because remember, every day that you're repeating these characters review in your notebook, you're doing them over and over and over again. By the point you get to this column here, the ma, mi, mu, me, mo, Kurt's favorite pronunciations here, you've already done these probably already hundreds of times without realizing it. See what I'm saying? This takes the burden off of your brain, because when you tell us humans that we have to do something 100 times over, we are already in reject it mode. Reject it, do not want to do. Do not want. 100 times over, do not want. So what you have to do is trick yourself into thinking, I'm just doing a couple of them, I'm not doing 100. Brain, take that. And this is how I studied all the kanji. I studied everything up to the point where I could be employed as a translator. I have never taken an actual Japanese class. Now, when I come back to the year 2020, I translate for the Japanese government. That's how I get by when I come back in time, ladies and gentlemen. So if they trust me to translate for them, and I've never even taken a class, that shows you that this method works. Can I recall every single kanji from memory? No. Not even natives can do that. Especially nowadays that we're all using computers and typing. Because it's very rare that you actually sit down and write kanji characters. But the hiragana and katakana, yeah, those are pretty much memorized easily. These are just like the alphabet in English. So it really shouldn't take you that long to do this. But the important thing is, you need to do this. Some people start learning Japanese using what is known as romaji, which is literally Roma-ji, Roman characters. Ji would be a character in Japanese, like a written character. So that's like, let's say we had the word, let's turn this off. Hana. Hana in Japanese can mean a couple different things. One of the most popular usages is flower. And romaji would be writing it like this. Here's the thing, I get it. It's easier to start speaking and using Japanese before you can read and write it if you do it this way. Here's my recommendation to you. If you are serious about learning Japanese, stop doing that immediately. Forget romaji. Just don't even... If you're starting now, here's the best thing you can do for yourself, because it's a crutch and it's a bad one. And it'll ruin your pronunciation and it'll make it much harder for you to just start writing and reading Japanese. So just start with this. Do what I just said to do. It'll take you a couple weeks max to memorize all of this. Okay? And by the way, when you go to learn katakana, it's the same thing. It's the same method. And it should be even easier because it's structured the same. So once you have done hiragana and you move on to katakana, you already know what's going on. You know, oh, this is a, I, U, E, O, this is ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. You're just writing them differently. Okay? And yeah, we're not even looking at kanji yet. Don't even worry about it. You do not need kanji to start reading and writing Japanese. As a matter of fact, elementary schoolers use very few, if any, kanji. They're still learning them. Native elementary schoolers, of course. So you could even read children's books in Japanese just by learning these two charts. You might not know what you're saying without studying the vocabulary, but this is where you start, and I highly recommend that you do not skip this part. Very important. With that said, let me check my notes here. What do we got? Yeah, hiragana is for most situations, words and grammar. Katakana, like I said, foreign loan words, foreigners' names. Don't write your name in hiragana. Let me put it this way, if you're a foreigner to Japan, I have to be careful here because Chinese people and Korean people also use kanji in their names. So if you're from the Western world, let's say, you will write your name in katakana. That's it. Just don't write it in hiragana. Don't try to be cool. It's not, you're just gonna look lame. Please trust me. Just don't do it. It looks dumb. You can get a kanji name. And most people who end up living in China do that because they just have no other script. It's just Chinese, obviously. You can do that, and some municipalities in Japan might require that you have one just for certain documents, but other than that, I wouldn't write my name in kanji. The internet's gonna crucify me for this, but it just makes you look like a tryhard. Like, just embrace the fact that you're a foreigner, write your name in katakana, because that's the way it's done. All right? Let's not argue the fact. Yeah, so memorizing these scripts doesn't take that long. It's just something you got to do. I would commit to memorizing 5 of them a day. Just like I said, just do 1 column a day. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and so on. And every day you start a new column, go back and repeat You only have to do it once. Maybe if you want to do it twice, a, I, U, E, O in your notebook, and then move on to the new characters. And we're mixing in the old characters as we do the new characters. Like I said, we're not going to write them all individually. That's how you keep it popping and fresh. Make sure you don't burn out immediately. And trust me, it's a lot smoother. So that's what I would suggest as far as the study method goes. By the way, this is a question we had. So we're reading from top left to bottom right. In basically this order, right? That is not necessarily how Japanese is read. A lot of people will ask, oh, Japanese is written vertically from top, and you read it from top right to bottom left. That is not the case most of the time. It's the case with these charts, and it's the case with, for example, newspapers, and a lot of books, I guess, are written that way, but for everything else, it's exactly how we would read in English. It's from top left to bottom right. So it would go like that, right? It's no different. There are a few cases where it is, but like old manuscripts and stuff like that. But other than that, it's the same thing. So you read it the same way. So what I would suggest is you guys print these charts out if you're gonna start with your notebook. You can find them online easily. Just Google Hiragana chart, and there's like a million of them out there. These ones, as you can see here, I like these because they're just simple and clean, and it's maikeru.cc. So if you type in Hiragana chart Maikeru into Google, I'm sure it would pop up, but you don't have to follow these exact ones. There's a million of them. Yeah, so that's the method. That's all there is to it. And with that said, I do want to talk a little bit about the structure. So I'm going to eventually end the stream. We still have a little bit more to go here, but I'm going to eventually end the stream by taking it slow through each of the first 5 characters. So if you want to get started today on those first 5 characters, you can. And we might even do a couple more columns depending on how much time we have. But the first thing I want to do before we jump into that is talk a little bit about the structure of Japanese and why it works the way it does, because we already had a question, do you use all of these scripts at the same time? And the answer was yes. Let's look over here. So this is a really simple example sentence. And already when I show this, I can imagine people who are like, whoa, we're jumping in the deep end. I can't understand any of this, obviously. What are you doing? I can't read this. We haven't even learned Hiragana yet, and you're already showing me Kanji and Hiragana and Katakana mixed together. And you just said, learn Hiragana and Katakana first. Relax. We're taking it slow. I'm not asking you to read this. I'm just asking you to listen to what I'm explaining here. I want to show you how Japanese is structured so that when you get to the point where you can read this, you'll know what's going on. So the question we had earlier was, do we use all 3 scripts mixed together? And the answer is yes. This is an example sentence, or 2 sentences written in Japanese. And you'll notice here, if we look down here, how this is broken up. We have kanji. That's this one right here. That's a kanji, originally taken from Chinese. We have a hiragana as a grammar particle, and that's no. And if you go back to the chart, you'll be able to find it. There it is. Then we have 2 kanji together forming a word. You'll see multiple kanji together form one word sometimes. And this would be pronounced namae, which means name. It's actually eerily similar to the English namae. So far we have watashi no namae. And like I just said, this is the possessive particle. No is the possessive particle. Like, what does that mean? It's like of in English. So if we said of me, it means mine, obviously. So name of me, my name. And what am I showing here? You probably already realized it. Japanese is grammatically backwards from English. So if we reverse that, name of I, or name of me, my name, right? Let's get rid of this. And then we have another hiragana here. This is another grammar particle, wa. We do not have that in English, and I know what you're thinking. What is the grammar particle? What does that mean? Don't worry about it. We're not getting into that right now. We're just looking how Japanese is structured. And now we have our first katakana of the sentence. These three characters, su, mi, su. Smith. It's a foreign or an English, yeah, I guess English, name, last name. So you can see here, it's right here. And if you go back to the chart, we can find them. We're looking for su, mi, su, Smith. And that's how, if your last name was Smith, that's how you would write it. And so so far we have kanji, hiragana, 2 kanji for 1 word, hiragana, katakana, and then again, hiragana for more grammar, des, which is basically to be or is. So all together now, if we're looking at this sentence right here, which is broken up into these individual pieces right here, I, possessive particle, name, topic marker particle. So you need, this is something we don't do in English. You need this between the 2 words to basically say what is what. So this is really confusing, and I feel like we're jumping in a deep end here, and I'm going to confuse the crap out of everybody. But basically, whenever you see wa and des, something's going to be between them, and it's basically saying is. So let's reverse back up here. I, possessive particle, name. So my name. We have wa, and something in between it and des is Smith. Okay, so anyway, I know that I've lost like 90% of the people already because it's just, it's backwards and you've got grammar particles and what's going on? Relax. Just showing you that we use all 3 scripts and that in Japanese, there are no spaces between the words. And this is something you'll get used to, trust me. And this is what real out in the wild Japanese looks like. I just want to show you that before we start actually learning it. It's important to look at. And if we want to take a look at the second example sentence here, America, this is written in katakana. It's the name of another country, so it's a foreign word, America. Kara, the word from, would be written in hiragana. And came, so this is the past tense of a verb. And this is a kanji and hiragana mix. You notice right here we have a kanji and then 3 hiragana. And if you look at the chart, you'll be able to find these ma, shi, ta. And this kanji, in this case, is pronounced ki. I'm not expecting that you know that. I'm just telling you right now. So you can see here that when we mix kanji and hiragana, it's in a lot of cases going to end up being a verb. I guess there's other cases of that too, but for the case of this example, it's a verb. So, America from came. Reverse the order if you're trying to translate it into English. Came from America or the US. So all together now we have my name is Smith. I came from America. Now would we say that in natural English? Probably not. But in Japanese, came from, and then the place, just means like I'm from. I'm from America. I'm from the US. My name is Smith. I'm from the US. And we had another question is, why are you using your last name here? This really depends on the situation, whether you're going to introduce yourself with your last name or your first name or both or whatever. But in any case, if you're meeting anybody for the first time, you use your last name. And in any situation, if you're ever using both of your last name and your first name, you use the last name first in Japanese. So Valen Hark would be Haku Valen. Valen Hark, Hark Valen we would use for a Japanese. Or we could just say Hak. And by the way, this is an example sentence, so this is very textbook sounding. My name is Smith. You wouldn't necessarily, just like you wouldn't just like walk up in, robot mode in English, and my name is Smith. I'm from the United States. I'm from America. In Japanese, you could just get away with saying Smith des. Is Smith, is how it would literally be translated, but correctly translated, it's just I'm Smith. And that's all there is to it. So this is an example of all the stuff that you don't need to learn right now, but I want you to understand the structure. I want you to get used to seeing how all three scripts are mixed together. So the real thing you need to start with are these two charts, of course, but once you start getting into kanji, you can start constructing your own sentences like this, pretty much immediately. You could learn these kanji just like you learned the hiragana. So if we were to pick out this kanji and this kanji and this kanji and wrote them in our notebook just like we wrote hiragana and katakana, you could memorize them the same way. I know they look difficult, but they're not really that hard. You're just not used to looking at them. Here's one thing that I want to let you know immediately, though. Let me pull this up real quick. When you write in Japanese, so you're going to get started with hiragana, right? You should be following the correct stroke order. And right away, everybody says, Valen, who cares what the stroke order is if it looks the same in the end? I write A in English, different from my brother, but everybody reads them both. They both look the same. Okay, fine. If you want to be difficult about it, sure, you could do that. But if you want to listen to somebody who's an actual translator, and you want to take my advice, let me tell you why we do this. Because they don't look the same if you do it out of order. And that's just down to the way the pen or pencil moves, or brush, or whatever you're using. But even if you did manage to get them to look the same, the important thing about the stroke order is the efficiency. So for hiragana and katakana, it's not a big deal because there's not so many strokes. But when you start using kanji and you've got, 6, 7, 10 strokes or something, if you do them in the right order, you will be able to write so much faster than if you did them out of order. And it also creates good habits because the strokes are written typically, you see here, top left to bottom right. So we start here, top left, and then work our way down to the right. And that's usually the case for most of them. Right? So I suggest that when you sit down to actually start writing hiragana, that you look up stroke order. And there's a million sites online. Like I said, this one that we're looking at here is the Yoshida Institute. So if you type in Google hiragana stroke order Yoshida Institute, I am sure that it will pop up if you want to use this exact one here. Basically, just watch this as you do it, or you can watch this stream because I'm about to show you this in a second. I just wanted to show you this first. The other thing that I would suggest you do as you're learning hiragana and katakana is pick up a textbook. Now, this is optional, but the textbook I would recommend here is Minna no Nihongo. And it looks like this. And it basically means everyone's Japanese, or Japanese for everyone. Minna no, remember no, I just introduced before as the possessive particle, right? So that's like of. Minna means everyone, and Nihongo means Japanese, specifically Japanese language. Nihon means Japan. Nihongo, by the way, this is the kanji for it right here, go, would be language. So if you put this character, this kanji, go, next to other kanji, like for example, ei, ego, would be English. So you'll see this often next to anything that's a language. So Minna no Nihongo is the book I would recommend, and I think that for self-studying, like I did, it's the easiest way to go. It introduces everything slowly and easily, and it gives you all sorts of exercises to do that you can do on your own. There's an answer key in the back, obviously, so you can actually check your work if you don't have somebody to check it for you. And overall, this was a very good book when I was learning by myself. And for vocabulary, so basically what you want to do, if you're going to start with a textbook like this, is for each chapter, you don't just jump into the chapter, because you can't read any of the words yet. You don't know what you're saying. Even if you already learned these two charts. Yeah, you can read them, but what are you saying? Like, watashi no namae wa nantoka nantoka. You could be able to read that, but you wouldn't know what you're saying. So for that, obviously, you want vocabulary. And there is a website. Let me take this back here. I wonder if we do this, if it'll show up. No. Okay. Hold on a sec. If you type into Google, Minna no Nihongo, vocabulary. And I'm going to type in Denisowski, because that is the guy that posted up every chapter's vocabulary for you. And I think, yep, this is it. So if you click that first link there in Google, vocabulary for Minna no Nihongo 1, and let's say you're starting at chapter 1, you click it, here's all your vocabulary. So before you even start the chapter in the book, if you're using this book, here's what I would do. And actually, I can even show you, because I have one of my old notebooks back when I was starting Japanese by myself. I would print out this page, and I would use the same method that I just showed you for learning Hiragana and Katakana. And I would literally go one by one, watashi, watashi tachi, anata, ano hito, ano kata, minasan. I would just go one by one with each of these vocabulary words down the list, and I would write one of them, I would go to a new one, I would review the two, I would go to a new one, I would review the three. I would use the same repeating process to keep it fresh and not boring, and I would go through pages and, oh, can we see that? Pages and pages and pages of these. I mean, I've got millions of them. This is just one of the notebooks. And that's how I would memorize kanji as well, because you don't want to memorize one kanji by itself. Sometimes it is a word, but sometimes it's not. You want to memorize words. So if we look here, there's two kanji here, but together they mean teacher. Sensei. And yes, I know you internet love to say sensei and senpai and kohai and all that. Well, why don't you learn how to actually read and write them? How about that? And you can see here some examples here in my notebook here. This is just, it's probably not going to focus, just words. I'm not even writing sentences. I'm just writing all these vocabulary words over and over again, mixing in all different ones down the list. You go to the next page. Oh, look, even more of them. And then, once I memorized them, I would start the chapter, and I would start actually doing the exercises in the chapter. And we're gonna have a hard time showing this here. Let me go here. See if we can focus that. Then I would, come on, camera, come on, you're killing me, man. There we go. So then I would go and do the chapter. What I was showing you before is this vomit of characters here. That's what I would do. Over and over again, just all the vocabulary. And I would repeat this process for every chapter. And I was learning grammar and vocabulary all while doing it. And that's how I self-studied. I mean, there's really not much more to say about this method. It's very easy. If you just sit down for like 20 minutes a day, you can do it. And here's the thing. If you just, like I just said, just sit down for 20 minutes a day. Just start. Not tomorrow. Not the next day. Not next week. It's never gonna happen if you keep saying, oh, that's my New Year's resolution. I'm gonna start that on January 5th. No. When you turn this stream off today, if you really want to get serious about this, number one, the VOD is going to be saved immediately to this Twitch channel. You can just watch it immediately. You can go back, you can pause, you can do whatever you want. you can start immediately. You can start right now while I'm still talking. If you got a notebook, why not? Just go look at the charts. Hiragana chart. Find one online. Look at the stroke order. Start writing them. Just like I showed you there. And if you do that, by next year, on the same day, what's the day? December 29th for me. If you're in the United States, it's still the 28th for you in the evening. You're gonna look back and say, wow, I can read and write basic Japanese. Or you're gonna sit there and say, wow, sure wish I started back then instead of now. So if you want to self-study, it's entirely possible. I did it. You can do it. Your old pal Valen Hark here, he's not smarter than you. You're a smart cookie. And Valen trusts that. And that's why he knows that you can do it. And by he, I mean me. All right, let's move on. Let me show you this. Because you're going to get to, if you're starting to study, you're going to get to the point in the chart where you're going to look at this right here. And you're going to say, what the hell is going on? Why? Number one, why are they at the bottom of these columns here? And what is this, like, quotation mark and, like, little circle? Okay, calm down. Here's what's going on. I'm going to tell you. This chart is set up so that it shows you... Let me zoom back out. Thank you. It's just saying for this column, if you put this quotation mark looking thing, and the actual word for it is called Tenten. In Japanese, it's called Tenten. Looks like quotation mark. If you go and put that, so let's say we have ka. If you put Tenten here, this now means ga. So it goes from ka to ga. Here on ki, if you put Tenten here, instead of ki, it's now right here. Gi. Gu. Ge. Go. Okay? So, if we go to the next column, you can probably figure out what's going on here. And this is sa, shi, su, se, so, right? But if you put the Tenten mark here, this is now za. Za. And this is a funky one, ji. It's not z. Don't ask me why, I don't know. It's ji. And this would be zu, ze, zo. And this, you do the same thing here for da, ji, zu, de, do. And then you see they skipped nani, nu, ne, no. There is nothing. If you put Tenten on these, it doesn't mean anything. So don't do it. Same here for a, i, u, e, o. If you put Tenten here, it doesn't mean anything. There is no character that looks like that. It's only this one, this one, this one, and this one. And this one is the super special one because it doesn't just have Tenten. So if we put Tenten here, this would go from ha to ba. And this would be bu, be, or hold on. This would be, excuse me, bi, bu, be, bo. So what is it doing? In effect, it's just changing the consonant that's attached to the vowel here. So this one's changing it from K to G. This one's changing it from S to Z. And in this case, J, so for G. And so on. For this column, ha, hi, hu, he, ho, you can use what is known as maru. This little circle here is called maru. And by the way, maru in Japanese, M-A-R-U, means circle. So you now can say a Japanese word as well as understand this chart. Because if you put maru here, a little circle, this goes from ha to pa. So it's changing the H into a P. That's all it's doing. Pa, pi, pu, pe, po. Okay, so those are where those extra consonants come in. Why didn't they just make another column for them? It probably would be easier to understand, but probably the reason is because the kanji, or not the kanji, the hiragana itself is not changing. You're just adding a little like modifier to it. You're putting a circle there, and now it's you know, changing the way it works. That's it. Okay? So when you get to that point in the chart, don't flip out. All it's doing is saying is if you add Tenten here, this goes from ka to ga. Okay? And if you add Tenten here, it's pa, or excuse me, ba. If you add maru, it's pa. And if you have nothing there, it's just ha. So you're gonna be like, oh god, now I'm gonna be looking at like modifiers on the top of the character. Like, oh, I don't want to do this. I understand. Relax. My suggestion to you would be, forget about them for now. Who cares? Get rid of them. Anything that stands in the way between you and wanting to do this, forget about it for now. And this is one of those things. I would go through and learn all of these first, and then once you got those down, you should have no trouble writing this, since you've already memorized it. And then you sit down, and in your notebook, you just throw the little Tenten on there when you're writing it. Okay? And hey, once you've learned it over here, you probably don't even need to really write it for katakana, because it's the same exact thing. If we put Tenten here, this goes from ka to ga. If we put Tenten here, this goes from ki to gi. Just like it does over here. Okay? The same thing. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I think I want to start closing things out here by doing the actual hiragana work. Let me engage nerd sit. Okay. Ooh, that squeak. Where are we going? Let's go right here. It's the canvas. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to use my tablet today to make sure that I can write this hopefully more legibly than I would with a mouse. Let's see how it goes. I'm going to take you through this slowly, and this is what, when you actually go to sit down and start writing the characters, this is what I suggest looking at. This part of the stream onwards. So first, we are going to start with the character Ah. If we refer to the chart, remember, we're starting day one. Day one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vowels. That's all we're going to do for day one. Stick to the plan, okay? So over here, we're going to start with the character, and if you need to, go back and look at the reference here. You can write it as you're looking at this, but let me show you here live how it's done. Take me back to Illustrator, thank you. So we start with our notebook, look at the first character, and I would recommend saying it while you write it, so that you could just use all those senses, use your looking and your feeling and your speaking to really punch it in. 1, 2, 3. Ah. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Ah. And if you want to slow that down, 1, 2, 3. Ah. And a lot of people will be really hard on themselves immediately, like trying perfectly to match the. Oh, it's not this. This one's more wide than the space here. We have x equals 42 here. Guys, this is a font. This is a typed font over here. You are never going to be as perfect as that. And why bother trying? Who cares? Like when you type the letter A, do you really go nuts when with your handwriting trying to match that perfectly? Probably not. If you do, have fun with that. But don't worry about matching it perfectly. Just get the strokes, and anybody's going to be able to read this as well as they would read that. Okay? So that is ah. Let's turn that off. Check the chart. What do we got next? E. So this is E. And before we do this, I want to tell you something very important here. When you write this character in Romaji, like it's written right here, like in the Roman alphabet, this is the letter I. So that is confusing for some people looking at Japanese for the first time because they keep hearing me say E. And if I say E, in your brain, you're probably thinking this. Oh, let me get out of the way there. E, right? This character is pronounced E in Japanese. So whenever you would write this, like let's say we had the word yuki, which among other things mostly means snow. So if we had to write this using English characters, we would use the I. That's just the way it's done. Probably another way you could write it is like this, but that's not how Japanese is written. That's just not how the system is. And to be honest, it's easier if we just always know that this is always pronounced E. It will never be pronounced I or anything else, okay? And this is going to be a running theme with all the pronunciations here. It's always pronounced the same. Always. It's easy. So this is E, and this is one of the easiest characters there are. 1, 2. That's it. E. 1, 2. E. All right, let me turn these off. Next up on the chart, what do we got? U. The third vowel. U. Always pronounced U. It's never going to be pronounced or anything else. So before our example of snow, yuki, this is never going to be pronounced yucky. Of course. Always yuki. All right, same thing. 1, 2. U. 1, 2. U. Next on the chart, we have O. Last vowel of the day for day 1. So let's take a look. We've got O. And ladies and gentlemen, what do you think I'm gonna bust an explanation about here? This is always pronounced O. Nothing else. And actually, there's another point I want to make about this, because in English, if we see the letter O, or if we pronounce the letter O, we say O. O. If I really try to exaggerate that to make this point, it almost sounds like O-w. Like it almost sounds like it would be spelled like this. O-w. O. In Japanese, this part needs to be removed. And to help you understand what I'm saying here, I'm going to say both of them back to back. I'm going to say English and then Japanese. O, O. O, O. You see what I'm saying? We don't, even if you really barely hear that little W from your English, try to remove that when you're pronouncing Japanese. It's just going to be pronounced O. 1, 2, 3. O. 1, 2, 3. O. Hey, look at that. Look at that. We did it. A-I-U-E-O. And as a little review here, what was the method for studying these? One at a time as we're going down the chart. Go to a new character. Don't write this 100 times. Go to a new character. E. And now you've got your hand on the piece of paper there and you're ready to write the next character. What do? Review. E. We're ready to write the next one. Go on to the next character. U. Same thing. Review them. E. U. The next character. Eh. Speaking of which, hey, are you supposed to be a professional, Valen Hark? You didn't show everybody did you? Did you? Looks like we went out of order, ladies and gentlemen. We skipped over. That is the 4th vowel. So let me show you that real quick. There it is. Eh. Always pronounced eh. Never anything else. 1, 2. So that second one is you gotta do a lot of little flips there, but it's all one stroke. So this is just 2 strokes here, right? 1, 2. Eh. So we went over a, I, U, E, O. And look, that's it. That's all you got to do. Just repeat these. And tomorrow, let's say you want to move on to day 2. Kakiku keiko. How are we going to go about starting that day? Day 2. How do we start day 2? Do you think that we're going to start day 2 by writing ka? Because you would be mistaken. Here's what we would do on day 2. Sit down at your notebook. You've already got all the characters from yesterday just piled on the page. Forget them. Who cares? We're going to move on. Just keep writing. You can do it in the same line. You can go on down to the next one if you want to. It doesn't matter. We're going to start day 2 by making sure we remember day 1. A, I, U, E, O. Now, if you forgot one of these characters, or all of them, or some other portion of them, before moving on to Kakiku keiko, write this out a couple times. Doesn't have to be perfectly memorized by the time you're done, before you move on, but just do it a few times. So you would sit down and say, let's say you had a hard time with eh. You just couldn't remember it, and the other ones you remembered. Still write them anyway, because it's going to help you out in the long run. A, I, U, because if you keep writing these, it's going to just become muscle memory, just like the alphabet characters would. And then you get to A, and you're just like, I just can't remember what that is. Okay, go look at the chart. There it is. Ah, I got it. Eh. And O. And then you do it again. A, I, U, and then and then you probably remember it. Eh. O. So we did this little exercise here, and this is what's forming all those little, this little neutron, electron connections in your brain there. That's what's going on. You did it. So let's say you got all this done. Oh my god, get rid of it. So then we do this. A, I, U, E, O. And this is the old. So what do we do? Move on to the new. The second day, first character. After your review, ka. Now, we're doing the same pattern here. New character. So what do we do? Review it. A, I, U, E, O, ka. And then what do we do? Move on. It's that easy, ladies and gentlemen. This was old, new character, ki, new. And just keep repeating this pattern. Some people ask, okay, yeah, but by the time I'm on this day over here, does that mean I'm rewriting all of these, like, before I start this one? I would recommend it. Doesn't take that long. But if you feel so confident in, like, for example, this set here, because you've already written them like 1 billion times by the time you got over here, look, that's up to you. Give yourself a pass. All right, I know these fine. I don't need to keep writing them while I'm over here. Maybe you start that day's review off from ta. Or maybe you start it from ha, because you feel really comfortable with all of these. That's fine. That's up to your judgment. I am not the boss of you, and you can do whatever you want. But my recommendation would be do them all until you're super comfortable with them. If you can do these without even thinking, then you can skip them. And just keep moving on with your reviews from a later part of the chart. Okay? So with that said, what are you doing, Valen? You can just do this. There you go. for those of you who want some extra credit in the Japanese class, let's show you that day 2. Why not? Remember, we can go over here. We can check stroke order. I don't know why this chart isn't backwards order from the chart that we're looking at. This one starts at the top left instead of the top right. That's what's going on here if you're confused. There's the stroke order, right? So you can check that while you're doing it. So the first character we have here is ka. 1, 2, 3. Ka. 1, 2, 3. Ka. Okay. What do we got next? That was ka. Next we have ki, which looks like this. Remember, how do we pronounce this? Because all we're doing is attaching the consonant to the vowels. So this would never be pronounced as ke or anything else. It will always, no matter what, no matter the word, no matter the situation, this will never be anything other than ki. For the love of God, ladies and gentlemen, it even looks like a key. I mean, come on. How much easier can you get? Alright, so ki. 1, 2, 3. Ki. And if we go and look at the chart here, you're going to notice something. Some of you slick dogs out there end up asking me, why? Look, take a look at this. This is that final stroke is all one stroke, and it's connected. Why does this have a hole in it? And look, your font even has a hole in it. Why is that? It's because there's 2 common ways to write it. That's it. It's just handwriting style. Okay? You could also write ki like this. 1, 2, 3. You could connect this loop, or you could leave it open like that. That's completely up to your style preference. That's it. There's not a lot of characters that do this, but this is one of them. So that is ki. Head back to the chart. What do we got next? Ku. That's right there. This is easier than most alphabet characters. Come on, guys. It's like a bracket. How do we pronounce this? It's just the consonant plus the same vowel. It will always be ku. So this is 1 stroke. Ku. That's it. Ku. Come on, guys. This is super easy. What do we got next? Ke. And you'll notice they're all the columns are following the same pattern. A, I, U, E, O, ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. Right? Ke. So this is a little bit more complicated than those other ones, but still very easy. Still the same thing about pronunciation. Always ke. It's never going to be ka or ka or ke. It's just ke. So that's why it's so important. I keep drilling this into you, but it's so important that you understand that the vowels never change. Because the number one reason that people's Japanese pronunciation sucks is because they keep like importing English pronunciation, which has a billion different readings for every letter, depending on the word. That's not how it works in Japanese. It's much easier. So this is ke. 1, 2, 3. Ke. And you'll notice mine is a lot messier compared to the font. Like I said before, it's never going to be as perfect as the font. If you want me to try to be a perfectionist here, 1, 2, 3. Ke. By the way, this little tail thing here, that's like a, what is it called? A serif, almost. It's not necessary. It's just part of the stroke. So you could actually write ke like this. You do not need that little tail there, but you'll often see it in like serif fonts, for example. So either way is fine. So that is ke. And let me turn that off. What do we got next? Ko. There it is. Always pronounced ko. Like I said, this has got its little like serif looking tail there. It's just because when you're writing, you just naturally leave that little tail there on your way to the next stroke. So it would look like this. 1, 2. All right. Cool. 1, 2. That's it. So that would be your day 2. Right? And the whole time you've been studying these, your page should look like this, right? A, I, U, E, O, Ka. That was the first one for today. A, I, U, E, O, Ka, Ki. A, I, U, E, O, Ka, Ki. Ku. A, I, U, E, O, Ka, Ki, Ku, Ke. And so on. I think you get the point. But the real thing about this is, look, by the time you've finished day 2 now you've already written like that 100 times that you would have done just only by itself yesterday. And you feel more accomplished. It doesn't feel like such a sluggish process because you're constantly getting new things. You're constantly giving your brain new stuff to look at. And I'll tell you one thing, my brain likes a constant influx of new stuff because that's what keeps it fresh and popping and exciting and fun. And this is about as exciting and fun as you can make language learning, trust me. If you sit here and do these one at a time 100 times, you are going to hate life. So don't do it. Just do it like this. This is how I did it. It works, and I don't see enough people promoting this method, to be honest. I don't want to say I invented it because I doubt that, but I really don't see this being taught much. This way to do it. And I think it's a lot easier. All right? So that is what I would do. Boom. And I think that would about wrap things up for day 1. I threw a lot of stuff at you there, but I think you probably, hopefully, have the basics here. Like I told you, don't worry about kanji, don't worry about those Chinese characters yet. It's just not necessary. You need to learn the phonetics first. You need to, if this was English, do you think we would be moving on to like word structure and grammar without learning the alphabet? No. Learn the alphabet, and you will have a much better time, trust me. That about does it. Look, if you have any questions, feel free at any time to let me know. Tune in for more Cyberpunk 2077. I will blast social media when the next Japanese language, Learn Japanese, that's the name of it, stream will be. I will blast that all over the place, so keep in touch there. Follow if you want to know. And until then, Valen Hark, signing off from the future. You have yourself a wonderful evening, ladies and gentlemen. Goodbye.